My name is Joanna Whitney. I'm an intuitive artist, student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. We are reading The Kybalion by the Three Initiates. On page 89, in the middle of the law of gender. I've recorded this twice now, and both times my microphone didn't work, so hopefully I'll be able to do it again and maybe get more information out of myself from this being the third time. I just wanted to remind everyone with regards to the law of gender, that the law of gender is simply characterizing the poles of duality as masculine and feminine. So, for example, in the law of mentalism, the all is in all is masculine, whereas all is in the all is feminine. And then we have the principle of correspondence. As above would be masculine, so below would be feminine. The principle of vibration, a high frequency would be masculine, low frequency would be feminine. The law of polarity, either one pole would be masculine, the other pole would be feminine. The principle of rhythm, the ebb is feminine and the flow is masculine. The principle of cause and effect, cause is masculine and effect is feminine. Principle of gender, obviously. Here we are. So yeah, it sounds like the feminine principle is negative, and that's what the dark occult Luciferians would like us to believe, because they're not connected to their heart, so therefore they're trying to eradicate the need for the feminine, and they get to replace the feminine with men. Take a look at Hollywood, how many female actresses and movie stars and musicians are actually men. That's a big investigative thing going on right now. A lot of people are investigating and exposing that many of our favorite female actresses and musicians are actually men. And that's probably because of this, because the priest class of the ancient mystery schools were psychopathic and weren't connected to their hearts. So they have been trying to root out the feminine since the beginning of humanity. So anyway, I was just thinking of the tarot cards, for example, the 0 card being the all, the fool. The high priestess should come next because of intuition, and then go into the magician, should be number 2. But they didn't, they flipped it. They subverted it, as they subvert everything as part of their religion. So just to be more clear about that, the Father is the all, is the masculine. The Holy Spirit is the feminine. And the Son, who is birthed from the Father and the Holy Spirit, is action. Even the way we say it the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, but it should be the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. But they have subverted it so that we don't think about it the way that it should be, how it would flow. It flows from the all into duality through the feminine intuition, and then the thought comes after the infused thought, the God-infused thought comes through the intuition first, and then becomes the thought. So that's the principle of gender. All right, so it says the latest scientific teachings are that the creative corpuscles or electrons are feminine. Science says they are composed of negative electricity, or we say they are composed of feminine energy. A feminine corpuscle becomes detached from, or rather leaves a masculine corpuscle and starts on a new career. It actively seeks a union with the masculine corpuscle, being urged thereto by the natural impulse to create new forms of matter or energy. One writer goes so far as to use the term, quote, it at once seeks of its own volition a union, end quote, etc. So the seeking would be masculine. Again, it's not possible to separate the masculine and the feminine from each other. So good luck with that, dark occult Luciferians. Have fun with your transgender creations. This detachment and uniting form the basis of the greater part of the activities of the chemical world. When the feminine corpuscle unites with the masculine corpuscle, a certain process is begun. The feminine particles vibrate rapidly under the influence of the masculine energy and circle rapidly around the latter. The result is the birth of a new atom. This new atom is really composed of a union of the masculine and feminine electrons or corpuscles, but when the union is formed, the atom is a separate thing, having certain properties, but no longer manifesting the property of the free electricity. The process of detachment or separation of the feminine electrons is called ionization. These electrons or corpuscles are the most active workers in nature's field. Well, that must piss off those patriarchal priest class psychopaths. Arising from their unions are combinations manifest the varied phenomena of light and dark. Light, heat, electricity, magnetism, attraction, repulsion, chemical affinity, and the reverse, and similar phenomena. And all this arises from the operation of the principle of gender on the plane of energy. The part of the masculine principle seems to be that of directing a certain inherent energy toward the feminine principle and thus starting into activity the creative processes. So again, just to take a moment, every sentient being has a toroidal field around it, and this activity, this action is masculine and feminine, but the being itself is its own thing. And we obviously can't even see that toroidal field with our naked eye. But the feminine principle is the one always doing the active creative work. And this is so on all planes. Boy, they don't really want that to be true. And yet, each principle is incapable of operative energy without the assistance of the other. In some of the forms of life, the two principles are combined in one organism. For that matter, everything in the organic world manifests both genders. There is always the masculine present in the feminine form and the feminine in the masculine form. The Hermetic teachings include much regarding the operation of the two principles of gender in the production and manifestation of various forms of energy, etc., but we do not deem it expedient to go into detail regarding the same at this point, because we are unable to back up the same with scientific proof, for the reason that science has not yet progressed thus far. So again, this was in 1908. It sort of seems like a lot of at least what Wikipedia would call pseudoscience, is going back to this very scientific exploration. I would say myself that this is true. I would just ignore science altogether nowadays because it's just BS, because it's all Rockefeller funded. And I just go with the Hermetic principles myself, personally, and my experience. All right. But the example we have given you of the phenomena of the electrons or corpuscles will show you that science is on the right path, and will also give you a general idea of the underlying principles. Some leading scientific investigators have announced their belief that in the formation of crystals, there was to be found something that corresponded to sex activity, which is another straw showing the direction of the scientific winds are blowing. And each year will bring other facts to corroborate the correctness of the Hermetic principle of gender. So when they're talking about sex activity, they're not talking about sex in the teenage sense of the word. They're talking about sex magic, which again is the principle of gender. You know, on the in-breath, that's masculine. And then there's a pause, which is feminine. And then the out-breath is masculine. And then there's a pause, which is feminine. That's what they're talking about. It will be found that gender is in constant operation and manifestation in the field of inorganic matter and in the field of energy or force. The electricity is now generally regarded as the something into which all other forms of energy seem to melt or dissolve. The electrical theory of the universe, in the latest scientific doctrine, is growing rapidly in popularity and general acceptance, and it thus follows that if we are able to discover in the phenomena of electricity, even at the very root and source of its manifestations, a clear and unmistakable evidence of the presence of gender and its activities, we are justified in asking you to believe that science at last has offered proofs of the existence in all universal phenomena in that great Hermetic principle, the principle of gender. It is not necessary to take up your time with the well-known phenomena of the attraction and repulsion of the atoms, which I believe personally is magnetism, which has been occulted by gravity, because they don't want us to know about magnetism. Like, they don't want us to really understand the magnitude of the power of magnetism and how we have personal access to it. They don't want us to know that, because then we would understand so much more about how to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually, which we can do with magnets and our own magnetism, our own electromagnetic force that we have in our bodies. So attraction and repulsion would also be masculine and feminine. Chemical affinity, the loves and hates of the atomic particles, and the attraction or cohesion between the molecules of matter. These facts are too well known to need extended comment from us. But have you ever considered that all of these things are manifestations of the gender principle? Can you not see that the phenomena is on all fours with that of the corpuscles or electrons? And more than this, can you not see the reasonableness of the Hermetic teachings, which assert that the very law of gravitation, that strange attraction by reason of which all particles and bodies of matter in the universe tend toward each other, is but another manifestation of the principle of gender, which operates in the direction of attracting the masculine to the feminine energies and vice versa? We cannot offer you scientific proof of this at this time, but examine the phenomena in the light of the Hermetic teachings on the subject and see if you have not a better working hypothesis than any offered by physical science. Submit all physical phenomena to the test, and you will discern the principle of gender ever in evidence. Let us now pass on to a consideration of the operation of the principle on the mental plane. Many interesting features are there awaiting examination. So the next chapter will be mental gender, chapter 14.